Good morning, everybody. Thanks again for coming to our visit day. I hope you enjoyed the tour and are excited about the space and the equipment. You'll have time to spend more time in the Makerspace upstairs later today. This morning, we're just going to kick off with some introductions and then dive into just refreshing your memory if you've attended our info sessions and talking more in depth about the program, the curriculum, the experience. Make sure we address as many questions that you have that we can. So this morning, you'll get a few introductions. We spoke a little bit earlier. Again, I'm Director of Academic Programs. And one of the things we want to talk about is that this program, GIX, the building, everything about this endeavor is truly a partnership. And we work closely with Tsinghua University in Beijing, and we enjoy significant support and engagement from Microsoft. And it's truly a partnership every single day. We have full-time staff in our office that are both from UW and from Tsinghua University, and we're working together every day. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Vivian, who will say a couple of things from Tsinghua University perspective as well. And then we will hand over to Shwetak and Julie, and I'll introduce them in a minute.
Thanks, Linda. Welcome, everyone. I represent Tsinghua University. If you haven't, I hope you already visit Tsinghua Suite and get a little bit understanding of what Tsinghua University in China. So this program is truly a global program. And here you're not going to learn work on your career. You're also going to learn how to work in the international team. And hopefully when you graduate, every one of you can be a leader in the international innovation team. So for those of you in dual degree, you're going to travel in fall to Tsinghua University. We know you probably were going to have some frustration because this program will be an international program. You're going to run into the unexpected situation. So I'm curious, this is going to be a challenging program. Hopefully you're up for the challenge, and we're looking forward to seeing you this fall, not only in GIX in Bellevue, we're going to see you in Tsinghua and in Beijing. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to welcome a virtual introduction from Shwetak Patel, who is our CTO and essentially our executive director for GIX, and also Julie Kientz, who is a founding faculty member who helped build the curriculum and is currently teaching User Research Studio. So Anthony, can you set us up?
All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person. We're taking the break, which is this weekend. We promised him Disneyland, and we can't break that promise with the 6 and 3-year-olds because we wouldn't live it down. So helping the kids get some breakfast. So I'll start off. So welcome. GIX is quite a unique experience that we've created over the last few years now. As Linda said, I'm a CTO and director of GIX. I was on the curriculum committee that helped form the MSTI program, the Masters of Science and Technology Innovation. So my academic life and my academic work is around research for sustainability, health applications, and generally the applications of computing to kind of global challenges in general. So we're very much an applied research lab on the research side of things. So we created GIX and the MSTI program really to serve a need that we had found in the region and also globally in general, which was the fact that we were graduating these great students that had either strong technical backgrounds or design background or students that had a strong business background. But one of the challenges that industry has really come back to us and said is, look, we want a little bit of all of that. If you think about innovation now, computing is changing every few months, if not every few days. And so the ability to be able to pivot and work on these big problems requires you to really understand the broad set of constraints that are required when you're innovating on a project. It's not just the technical background and the technology. It's really figuring out how do you build the right thing? How do you know if you're building it right? And then knowing which technology to apply to that particular problem domain. And then on top of that, we have to really think about how do you pitch this and how do you actually convey these concepts, not just engineers. You'll be pitching these things to executive leadership, to customers, just to the world in general. And so having that broad background, that breadth, is really critical in, I think, innovating in this world right now. And on top of that, you know, a lot of these problems that we look at are not just isolated to the Pacific Northwest or the West Coast or the U.S. Really, these are global challenges. The dual degree part of our program comes into play. Even students that aren't necessarily in the dual degree program will still be immersed in a kind of a global experience based on the cohort, based on our collaboration and deep partnership with Tsinghua University. But that's kind of the key around what we did for the GIX programs in general, especially for the MSTI and the dual degree program. So we work really closely with industry. You know, Linda said there's a partnership. It's partnership, you know, with our academic partners, but also more broadly with our consortium. You know, one of the key things about our program is that we're very externally facing. So what that means is that typically in most university programs, you get instructed by, you know, the faculty, the lecturers, the TAs. But we're a little bit more externally focused, meaning that we have mentors that are actually also part of the teaching program and the engagement there. We are also work with consortium members in industry to work on projects. And so the mentorship doesn't just come within, but it comes in from the broader committee. The curriculum comes through from the execution through the broader community itself. I just want to say a few words about the program itself. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a very intense program for a little over a year. This is going to be a pretty intense program where you're going to learn a lot about technology prototyping, learn a lot about design thinking, and then you're going to really learn about, you know, entrepreneurship by, you know, kind of getting into the thick of things. It's a very much a project-based program. So you start with projects that grow on top of each other, and then you kind of you know, launch this bigger project through the launch phase, partnership with consortium members. But it's a very intense program. This is a daytime program where you know, we needed to really make it an efficient program. So instead of stretching it out across a couple of years, we had to really make it something that was bounded within something that was something you could do in a year and a half. And so that's why it's a fairly intense program. It's not a computer science program. It's not an electrical engineering program. It's not a formal human-computer interaction program. It's actually a broad set of things that come together. It's really looking at the intersection of those disciplines. And so that's what really the MSTI and GIX is all about, is the combination of those things. And, you know, students that are really interested in going deeper into a technical field, if you really want to, you know, understand neural networks really well, or if you want to go down a pure business path, the other programs on campus are much more well suited for that. But if you're looking for breadth and looking at trying to innovate in unique places in society, I think that's where the GIX program and the MSTI shine. So, so that's kind of, I'll leave it at there in person. So what I'll offer you is that if you have any questions or follow up, send me an email so Linda can share you my contact info. So you can always shoot me an email. Happy to answer questions via email, or happy to chat with anybody that's making decisions about our program. But later today, you're going to see a little bit more about the research side of things that my lab does to get a flavor of the kinds of problems that we work on at UW. Nicholas Becker is going to help organize that with some of my students. And then I'll have Julie Kientz, who was also one of the founding members of the MSTI program, say a few words as well. She'll talk a little bit about her research, but also talk a little bit about kind of the classes that she offers in GIX as well. So, so having said that, I will hand it over to Julie. Are you guys able to still hear me okay? Yep. Okay. All right. I'm going to hand this over to Julie.
Hi, everyone. I can't see you, but I can hopefully you all can see me. So my name is Julie Kientz. I'm an associate professor in human-centered design and engineering, and that's one of the programs that jointly offers the MSTI. As Shwetak mentioned, I'm one of the members of the faculty committee that helped design the curriculum around the program, specifically focusing on the design thinking component, along with Linda Wagner, who you all have met. And so yeah, we were really interested in thinking about how people who are technologists don't just end up building technology for technology's sake, for the sake of innovation, but how it can actually solve real human problems, and making sure that we what those problems are and how we define those problems, and to go from very vague problems like sustainability or health or wellness, and think about how we can use things like user research and design thinking to come up with more specific concrete problems with real world constraints, make sure that the products that you're building are successful and usable and a great experience for people. And I don't know if Shwetak mentioned this, we're at Disneyland right now, which is like the height of like service design and experience design. So everything around this place is just amazing. And it's really interesting because we're thinking about this through, I've personally been thinking about it from a designer's perspective and thinking about like, all these details that go into these experiences here. And that's the kind of thinking that we want you all to think about. So not just build a product that kind of works, but provides a really awesome experience for people. And it's just something that we really hope to instill. I personally have been teaching the design research evaluation CEO. And that right now we're offering this class right now. And so we're going through, it's a kind of crash course on all sorts of design methods, and thinking about, how do we really dig in and find that problem that is really important for technology to be able to solve. And then also thinking about what are the problems that maybe technology isn't the best solution for too, and that, you can make sure that you're on the right path there. So that's probably most of it. Oh, Shwetak did say I should talk about my research too. So I talk a lot about my research in the class and kind of share my experiences, but my research is primarily focused on designing innovative technology for health and well-being, particularly for children and families, with a really broad lens of what that might mean in terms of, we've done everything from sleep technologies to tracking children's signs of autism. We've done things around nutrition and self-experimentation around health. And so those are all through this sort of design thinking lens, but with an eye towards technology innovation. And one of my projects specifically on design thinking, we've spun out into a startup company as well. So I've got experience in sort of thinking about that too. But I think that's all I have. So like Shwetak, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I hope you have a great visit today. And Linda has my contact information if anybody would like to follow up.
So apologies for those technology glitches. Hopefully you got the gist of their comments and feedback. And it's been an extreme pleasure to work with both Shwetak and Julie in developing this program, because I think they both embody what we're trying to achieve. And that is that although they both have backgrounds in computer science, they've really transcended the boundaries between design and user-centered design and design thinking, business and entrepreneurship, seeing an opportunity not just to develop a meaningful experience for people, but even to develop that into a meaningful business that has broad impact, and then really being able to follow through with the technical design of that. So I would encourage you after today, if you have more questions, to look into the backgrounds online about our various faculty, learn a little bit about what they're bringing to the table, so that when you arrive here, you really are equipped to benefit from their projects, their knowledge, ask great questions, and think about what they're bringing into the program. So really quickly today, we're going to give you a bit more of an in-depth GIX program interview. We're going to go a little bit more in depth than what we typically do in an info session. We'll cover your questions about that. We'll speak briefly about financial aid, expected career opportunities and directions, and we'll have an opportunity to introduce you to our staff and our faculty, and you'll spend some time in the Makerspace, and I believe you'll also have a tour of main campus. So we're going to kick things off with a video from Bety, who graduated in December.
I chose to study at GIX because I was looking for something more technical. I was looking into different programs in masters, and when I was looking at GIX website, I saw how the program was combining business and design with technical skills, and it felt like the perfect program because it meant that I didn't have to put my social sciences background behind. I could combine it and get a holistic view of how to create technology products. For someone who's considering this program, think about the entrepreneurial spirit in you and what do you need to enhance that, because the environment here truly inspires you to do more, to start things and go through with them. It's try and fail in a safe environment. You get really comfortable with the unknown. For someone who's maybe still has that scare in them to start something or start their own company or start working on their idea, it's the perfect place to get over that fear.
So I love that her comment is, if you have fear about starting something, this is the perfect place to get over it. And with that, what we're going to do now is just dive into walking you through the curriculum in a bit more detail. And again, the point of today really is to help you understand in a little bit greater detail, what will this experience be? What are you taking on? What's the level of commitment, and be able to evaluate if that's the right fit for you. So as I'm speaking, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we have several people joined online. And for folks online, Leah, can they chat in questions that they have? Great. So we'd suggest that you keep your audio muted, but if you have questions, please chat those, and Anthony or I will be able to respond to those. If you have a burning question about something I'm covering, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we'll try to address those as we go. Okay, so important takeaways or reminders is that the MSTI, and we'll talk about the dual degree as well, but we'll start with the MSTI. So the MSTI, Shwetak led into this a little bit. It is an accelerated or intensive and defined program. So what that means is you may be familiar with other master's degree programs that are a 2-year, and you join the department and you have a la carte list of electives and a list of required courses that you must take. Maybe you take them in a different order than someone else, and perhaps you do a big project at the end. Maybe you have a summer off and you can do your own projects, take classes, or do an internship. And our program is very different from that type of design. So I want to make sure that we cover any questions and explain that carefully. So this is 5 sequential quarters of full-time daytime study. And to Shwetak's point, we are trying to fit the depth of a traditional master's program into an accelerated timeline. So it's worth noting that this does not include a summer off. Your summer is full-time daytime study, 12 credits, just like any other quarter. So we start in the fall. And again, another framework. So we talked about the fact that the curriculum combines design thinking, user-centered design, business and entrepreneurship concepts, as well as hands-on learning in hardware and software technology development. So another way to think about the way this is organized is prepare, practice, launch. Prepare is really equipping you with foundational knowledge or skills in each of those areas. Practice is on a course level or a project level, allowing you to apply those to a particular relevant project. And then launch is really the major synthesis of everything that you've learned in the program, and having you work in an interdisciplinary team with an industry sponsor on a comprehensive design, intervention, or solution project with technology. So if we think about these 5 quarters, you can see that in the autumn, you've got basic courses, and we'll go through quarter by quarter, but just wanted you to be able to see a comprehensive view of the curriculum. In addition, you'll see events down at the bottom, and there's more to add there. You'll see in winter we have Mixer Intro to Consortium sponsors, we have Makerspace workshops, we have career networking events. That's really just to give you an indication that in addition to the curriculum, we are constantly looking for extracurricular opportunities for you to learn more, develop your skills, do just-in-time learning on very specific topics or ways of applying what you're learning in the curriculum. Because we are an interdisciplinary program and we recruit a variety of students, I often tell people that you will learn as much from your peers as you do from your faculty. So you may have noticed that in our application, we ask you, what will you bring into the cohort, into the program? What can you share with your peers? So we also support students in being able to hold workshops and things like that. And so I believe it was just the other day, our current cohort was hosting their own workshop on data science, and we highly encourage that as ways to kind of supplement or extend the curriculum that we have here. So starting in fall, the other thing to note is that we try to practice what we preach, and so we embrace iteration and learning from our prototypes and our products, and then being able to improve them in future iterations. So you would already be benefiting from that in the sense that we used to have fabrication and physical prototyping in spring, but we made a decision to move that to fall because one of the things we want to make sure is that by the end of fall quarter, all students have a pretty deep and broad exposure into fabrication and prototyping and the digital equipment that we have here. So We now have that in the fall. That's a course that will take you through a structured range of different types of prototyping methods and prompts and problem solving. Sometimes you'll work individually and sometimes you'll work on teams. The programming for digital and physical user interfaces is really about front-end development and developing user interfaces. And in that course, historically, students have worked on a virtual robot and developing an interface for that they can then launch an experiment with. Essentials of Entrepreneurship is actually broken down into 2 sections, and it covers both from a business perspective, how do you identify a market opportunity and qualify or contextualize that opportunity by talking to people and mapping that out from a business landscape, as well as some basic business and market analysis and strategy concepts. And then finally, Design Thinking Studio is really a comprehensive project and team-based course where you're given a few different problem spaces and teams can select what type of problem space they want to work on, but you essentially apply a comprehensive user-centered design process to develop and propose a design solution. This past fall, some of the examples were how do we reduce the number of single occupancy vehicles on Seattle roadways, or how do we help people be better at having the knowledge and the skill and access to prepare at home better, healthier meals for themselves. And in particular, some groups focused on students who are sort of always on the road, always kind of camping somewhere on campus, and how do we help them make better food choices? So those are just some examples. Another one was how do we equip regions to be more resilient to respond from disasters? So some pretty big, meaty topics, and students then go through the process, develop proposals, and present those. So winter tends to be a more intense technical quarter, but the history and future of technology is really more of a social, cultural, political, historical lens on emerging technologies. So this is one of the courses that feeds into the fact that we want to equip you with the technical problem-solving skills and the technology development skills, with the design and business analysis skills. But we also want to make sure that you are thoughtful, ethical, responsible, inclusive innovators. And so this is a course that allows you to really look at the historical lens of emerging technologies. How were they developed? What were the implications? What were potentially unintended consequences of those technologies? So that you can have that as a historical lens to think about what you do in the future. Introduction to Sensors and Circuits is really giving you that that introductory and baseline exposure to working with actual sensors and circuits. A lot of what we do in connected devices is really about developing hardware and software products that we deploy out into the world and that sense information and bring that data back to us. And so it's really getting you the exposure hands-on of how you can start to develop those products. Managing data and signal processing is really another lens on how you do that, right? What do you do once you have that data? How do you process those signals, and how do you then analyze that and allow your device to do something meaningful based on what it's learned from what it's been able to sense from the world? And then finally, Hardware Software Lab. This is another project-based course where students will work in teams and they will have a particular proposal. For this year, students were able to propose their own projects, and we had examples like a smart ping pong paddle that allows you to understand your stroke and your game and actually improve it over time. We had an intelligent boombox where the physical interaction in front of that boombox can modulate the music. So physically gesturing drum beats faster or slower might modulate the speed of the drum that the boombox is actually playing. Really fun example. But these, again, are a project-based opportunity for you to start to build hardware and software to demonstrate your skills. What's going on? Okay. Was I on the wrong page? Okay. So spring quarter. Make sure we're on the right. So spring quarter, Intro to Finance and Accounting for Entrepreneurs. This is just making sure that you have the basic accounting concepts, not just in general, in terms of running a business or launching a product, what do you need to consider, but also in particular with startups. And some particular considerations with startups are, I have a limited amount of funding, or I'm getting funding in a certain series of milestones, and how do I make the right decisions for how to apply that? Where am I investing in developing of my product or my business appropriately? So giving you that credibility and that foundation of the financial side of things. And that's important for when you want to, I'm just not even gonna look at what you're doing. That's important for when you might consider developing a startup or pitching an idea. Investors or companies that might be looking at acquiring your opportunity are really gonna wanna understand that you've considered the financial aspect of this experience. Hardware Software Lab 2 is a continuation of Hardware Software Lab 1. In this case, though, we're really looking at not just building a device, but connecting those devices and looking at the experience when you're able to connect those devices and collect multiple streams of data from multiple devices. User Research and Evaluation Studio, you just saw Julie talking about that. This is really giving you a comprehensive introduction to all of the tools, both at the front end and at the evaluative stage of how do we learn about people's needs and desires in context of the problem we're trying to solve? How does that inform our design decisions? And then once we've actually built a prototype and developed that, how do we evaluate that and get appropriate feedback so that we can iterate, refine, and know that we're developing a successful product that's meeting those needs? Design thinking for technology innovation, that's something that I'm currently teaching right now. And we've also adapted that course to be the primary mechanism for working with our consortium sponsors to start to outline the launch projects. So each sponsor will come in for a course session. They'll outline some areas of research for students to do in advance. They'll come in, they'll give a presentation, we'll do brainstorming, and we'll use the output of that session to help inform the definition of a project that we'll propose at the end to move forward as a launch project. Thank you. Okay, so finally, summer. So this is the 4th of 5 quarters. Planning and managing hardware and software development is really about when you have a design concept or a product, how do you bring that to the world? How do you commercialize it? How do you scale it? What are the considerations for manufacturing and all of those types of things? I believe that we have Mike Clark who teaches this, and I also believe he took students on a field trip to a local manufacturing so they could see real time what that looks like. So it's a great course. And it's at a perfect time when you're at the beginning of your launch project, so that in the following quarter, when you have a clear concept, you can start to think about what does it mean to scale that product. Visual, Industrial, and Interaction Design Studio is really doing a quick survey of some of the aesthetic and formal and development tools that those particular design professions use along the course of product development. Exposing you to the theories and the language and the tools and allowing you to practice those each with professional design faculty or practitioners, so that you really do have a comprehensive idea of that. In some cases, people really take that and run with it and really develop a notable design portfolio. But in other cases, if design isn't your core strength, at the very least, you're going to be able to speak credibly about design. You're going to be equipped to effectively critique design, both industrial and visual and interaction design, and really know how to work with other designers and how to incorporate them in your product development cycle. Building effective teams, one of the courses I'm most excited about in this program. You cannot take for granted that you need to invest, study, and practice how you work with each other, not just how you get the work done. And this is a course that really leverages the best practices and research about high-performing teams to give you hands-on constructive tools, interaction tools, communication methods for ensuring that your team is communicating effectively, operating effectively, and able to share and complete the work and deliver. And this is particularly important because you're going to be working with industry sponsors in your launch project. And we want to ensure that you have the tools to show up and engage with that group as a professional team. Finally, Pre-Launch Studio. This is 4 credits, but this is the first half of your launch project. So in the summer, it's very fast paced. Summer quarter is a week shorter than other quarters, but this is where you would complete any front end or user research. You would develop concepts and ideas for your design or your intervention or your product. You would have a way to evaluate and filter those ideas, narrow it down, select one or a couple of ideas that you can prototype, evaluate those ideas, and then you would move on to the final quarter. So it's pretty fast paced in just 8 weeks to get through those cycles. So it is a fairly intensive course. And the next. Thank you. Okay, so last but not least, fall quarter. Corporate IP and law. This is really an opportunity to make sure that you are thinking about, you have a full understanding of what does it really mean? What does IP mean in all of its forms? What do you need to be thinking about as you're developing ideas? What is protectable and how? And what are the different nuances of the varying ways that you want to think about that? And what is the landscape of IP? Would it be possible to pull the slide back up? Thank you. Nope, previous. Thank you. Launch seminar. So launch seminar is really about preparing you to enter the professional world in this new set of skills that you have. So in the past, that's included bringing in a lot of leaders in technology and entrepreneurship in the local startup community and the technology ecosystem here in Seattle to come in and talk about their experiences and incorporate some reading on emerging companies and really kind of immersing you in the professional lens of the world that you're about to enter. And then finally, integrated launch studio, 8 credits. So that's a lot of credits because really our intent for the final fall quarter is the primary focus of your time is working like a real full-time industry team on your launch project. So we'll give you a team space here at GIX where you can work together as a team and you'll have desks and whiteboards and whatnot. And then that's what we're expecting is that you'll spend a lot of your time just working within your team. There will be days that you'll divide and conquer. Maybe some of you will be working on prototyping and some of you will be working on the business case. But for the most part, we're really looking for you to have a team space and be operating like a full-time team. There will be pretty intensive prototyping during the fall quarter. You're really finalizing your design. So you'll iteratively be prototyping and increasing fidelity, working out some of the nits and details to come up with a final high fidelity proof of concept functional prototype and prepare your final presentation that may either be to propose this for funding, to propose it to be acquired by a business, or to think about the next stages of considering it for commercialization. So I'm going to pause there and just see if there are any questions about what I've covered so far. Okay, go ahead.
I'm curious how the instruction time is structured. Given that I'm sure it's not just normal class schedule, but how are the 12 credits structured throughout the week?
Great. So we have a question about how are the teaching credits structured or how is the course schedule? So more or less every quarter is about 12 credits. 10 credits is the minimum to be considered for a full-time student here. And I would say that different departments have different frameworks for this, but at the graduate level, when you have a 4-credit course, for example, that usually means 4 hours of classroom instruction or studio time with faculty. And then 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 times that amount outside of class time. So you could imagine if you have a quarter where you have 12 credits, you're going to spend at least 12 hours in classroom or studio setting with faculty. Sometimes that's scheduled for working on your projects in class time. And then in addition, so between 36 and 48 hours of work outside of class time, that adds up really quickly. So most students are spending between 45 and 60 hours on average a week working on things. That has an ebb and flow. Certainly that increases when you have a big deliverable due or maybe multiple projects due in a week. And it decreases maybe at the beginning of the quarter. A little bit, does that answer your question. You had a question, then we'll come here. Yes.
A couple questions about the launch studio phase of the program. How are the consortium partners decided, like projects? How is that determined?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I know Microsoft is for
Mm-hmm.
this program. Is there, at the end of the program, do they give you preferential hiring practices or reach out specifically to graduates to come have internship or a position at Microsoft since they're more aware of the program?
Great questions. Yeah. So I'll start with one question was launch project. How are the consortium members selected? And just that. And then the second part of that question was sort of, since we have a strong partnership with Microsoft and or other consortium members, are there any assumptions about hiring from launch project teams or internships or structured connections with industry? So for the consortium, we have a staff here that works here full-time in Bellevue, and we also have staff that are here certain days of the week, but they're also heavily involved in GIX, and in particular in the external facing part that Shwetak was talking about in developing these relationships with consortium members, recruiting them, getting them set up, introducing them to the students and incorporating them into our program. So that process is an ongoing year-round, effort that they are working on all the time. Typically what we do is we have a period of time where we're recruiting consortium members for the next year. And we just last Friday had our kickoff introducing those consortium members to the students. So right around this time of year is when we're finalizing that. And it's a group effort. Faculty contribute to that. They lead the dialogue with those sponsors. But again, we're looking for people that are interested in the program structure, our goals, that are aligned on our mission and vision, and that have interesting business problems that would be a good fit for our launch project. Students have suggested potential consortium partners, and in that case, we put them in touch with the folks that are leading those conversations. Other faculty have brought consortium members in, so it's kind of a dynamic, ongoing thing. I think then the third part of your question was about employment and internships. So we are working steadily with consortium members. Part of the perk of being a consortium member is that they essentially get the first right of access to you as a cohort. They kind of get the first opportunity to meet you, learn about you, work with you, and potentially consider you for employment. We have had several students who have gotten jobs with our consortium from last year. So we have 2 people who are working for Baidu. I believe we've had offers from T-Mobile. And we are actually in the middle of working on a comprehensive plan for recruiting across multiple types of opportunities with Microsoft. We are still working on setting up formal things, and I'll make an early introduction for you all. I'm very pleased to report that we have also hired a full-time person who will be focused on career development. Alicia, if you want to just wave. So now we have someone who really can make this their focus and their project to further develop those relationships. So she's going to be managing outreach with hiring managers of all the local companies. And I think that'll just become more and more comprehensive as we evolve. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Yes.
Quick follow-up to the time schedule one. How's the time distributed throughout the day? Is it like 9 to noon? Is it spread throughout the whole day, etc.?
Great question. So our schedule, typically our classes are during the day, and they tend to be scheduled between 9:30 and 4:30. And we've done that for a couple of reasons. One is that we don't need to worry about the standard course schedule on main campus because we have priority for the classrooms here. And the other is that people choose to live all over the region. Some live in Bellevue, some live in Seattle, some are already from here and are already living somewhere maybe slightly outside of the immediate Seattle downtown. And so we want to make sure that people aren't fighting rush hour traffic to get here for their classes, and faculty as well who are coming over from main campus. So sometimes the schedule is that you have one course during the day. That might be 2 or 3 hours in the classroom, and then the rest of your day is free. Some days you have a couple of class sessions with studios and labs. Those tend to be longer. So for example, the hardware software lab schedule right now is 11 to 3:30 with a half an hour break for lunch. It changes every quarter because it's partly based on faculty's availability, but generally that 9:30 to 4:30 time range is what we shoot for. Does that answer your question? Okay, yeah.
So what opportunities are there to take electives, particularly in advanced financial management and investments?
Great question. So one of the things that we realize is that often people come into our program and perhaps in their undergrad or their professional life or somewhere along the line, they've already covered some of the content or material that's featured in our curriculum. It is a challenge for us to take advantage of electives on main campus because where we're located and the time scheduling. However, we have introduced an opportunity for students to take, Leah, is it 8 credits? Up to 8 credits that you can swap from our curriculum to take advantage of electives on main campus. A couple of limitations to that, however, is that we've designed this program in a way that we can, excuse me, that we can assure our consortium members that when you get to the launch project that you have a pretty comprehensive set of knowledge and experiences that you can bring to that project. So what we require is that you provide us a transcript or some demonstrated evidence that you've already covered that material, and that the other course that you want to take is in general in the same topic area, so that we're sure that you already have that baseline skill and knowledge, and what you're really trying to do is actually go a little bit deeper. So that's what we look for. Leah can share the details of that policy, and then we just have a timeline that we need you to identify what courses you want to do that with in advance so that we can manage that process effectively with your registration, and also so that we can ensure that we can help you get access to the elective courses you want to take. You'd likely be taking those courses with an existing department, and of course they're going to prioritize seats for their own students. So the earlier we can get that figured out with you, the sooner we can help you get access to those classes, which is why we want to make sure that you have a full view of the curriculum and you can start thinking about that now. Okay, other online questions? Or okay, let's go here and then we'll go back. She's going to bring you the microphone.
So I had a follow-up question to the consortium selection question, but my question is more about how do students choose which partner they want to work with, or does the partner choose the students? How does that relationship work? And then my second question was about the coursework. So in addition, say if I want to take everything that GIX has to offer, will I be able to take additional electives from the main campus? Is that a possibility?
Sure. So the first question is, how do the teams get selected and formed, project teams? So essentially what we do is we take the spring quarter to go through the ideation workshops. And what we plan for is that we land towards the end of the quarter with a comprehensive set of project proposals. That may be more than the number of teams we can have. Teams tend to be 3 or 4 students each, and we found that that's a good size to both balance the workload and the skill sets and have a good experience where everyone can contribute and make decisions. So what we have done historically is that at the end of the quarter, we present all of those projects, and the consortium members can kind of pitch their projects, and sometimes we have student-initiated projects, and students can propose those. There may be cases where a faculty member from main campus wants to work on a project with you all and might propose something. So we look at a comprehensive presentation of all the possible projects. So let's say there's a scenario where we have 10 teams, but we have 12 projects. So there's a 2-phase process. One is the entire group, the entire community, consortium members and students and faculty, vote on which projects they think are the best fit for the program in terms of the learning objectives, what we're trying to accomplish, the right variety, and the most compelling experience for you. So that way we narrow it down to 10. And then what we do is we bring those projects back to you as a student group and ask you to select your top 3 and give us rationale. And hopefully those selections are based on not, I want to work with my best friend, but
here's what I want to learn, and here's what I want to bring to this project. And this project is exploring healthcare, and I'm really interested in working in the healthcare field, so that's an important project for me to be on. Then faculty will take a look at that, and in general, we try to promise that you will get one of your top 3 choices. But we are looking at balancing backgrounds and experiences and skill sets and interests and what the consortium member wants out of that team experience. So we look for people that have leadership capabilities and a breadth of business and design and technology, so that when you're working on that project, if you're going to balance roles across that project, you really have the ability to do a great job. Was there another one? Additional courses. So you certainly can take additional courses. You would have to pay the extra tuition for that. And then you would also just have to balance the schedule of getting to and from main campus from here. But you certainly can and are welcome to do that. What I often advise is just take our curriculum in fall quarter, figure out what the workload is and the pace and what you can take on, and then think about taking additional courses. Other questions? Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, I said I would go back there first. Follow the microphone.
Oh, turn it up. All right. You had mentioned that some folks seek funding for launch projects. How does the program enable access to investors who might be interested in investing in those launch projects?
So a great question about how do you access potential funding for launch projects. In some cases, that might actually come from the consortium that might choose to move the projects forward. We've seen some of that in a limited way. T-Mobile sponsored a project last year, and they invited the entire student team to go and present that idea at CES in Las Vegas, which was a pretty exciting experience. At the final end of your launch project, what we do is we have a large public presentation, and we invite our entire mentor network. We invite all of the consortium members. We invite external potential funders and VCs to come to that presentation. So that's your opportunity to really present to that type of an audience. If we know in advance that we see a student team and a project that has interesting potential, we would probably help you socialize that early so that you wouldn't have to wait for that public presentation. And I would say that we've talked about what if a student team develops a project that we really think has the promise or the potential to go off and be a real product or a real business. I would say we would want to talk to you about that. We don't have anything formally set up in terms of incubation, but those are things that we're looking at over time. Certainly. CES? CES is a big international consumer electronics show. It's a long-standing tradition and happens at about the same time every year, early January in Las Vegas. And it's essentially where pretty much all the technology and consumer product companies come to introduce their new products and kind of show off their research and what they're doing. And it's quite, if you ever have a chance to go, it is quite the spectacle. Yeah.
So you mentioned that people pick their top 3 choices. Has anyone ever not gotten a choice that they were, I guess, wanting to do and just sort of had to make a project work because the ones that they wanted to were already taken?
So great question. So far, I have a sample size of 1 cohort. And we were able to get everyone that one of their top 3 choices. There were a couple people who were a little frustrated that they didn't get their first choice. But I would say across the board, every single project was an interesting project experience. And maybe during lunch, you can take or maybe some of you have already taken a look at the launch project posters. These are the posters from the launch projects that we had last year. And every single one of them was a unique and interesting challenge. The other thing is that from the curriculum side, faculty ensure that every single team goes through the key stages and has kind of somewhat equivalent learning experiences, although each project is going to have some unique set of experiences and deliverables. Yes, microphone.
So my question is, do we have on-campus job opportunities, like here or the main campus?
Yeah, so the question is on-campus job opportunities. So again, I tend to advise to come and plan not to have any outside commitments during fall quarter so you can kind of get the pace. Because although the quarter may seem like it starts off slow, typically people get pretty overwhelmed pretty quickly. Here at GIX, we do offer some student employment opportunities. We tend to hire students to help assist in the Makerspace. Sometimes our staff have projects and opportunities to hire students either on a part-time basis long-term or just on a project basis. There are RA and TA opportunities on campus. Those tend to be at least 20 hours a week, so you could explore those. But again, I would caution you to kind of think about how you're going to manage your time. There are probably other student employment opportunities on campus part-time. And there's a whole website, is it Handshake, that where everything's posted, and you're welcome to look at that. Can somebody give me a time check? Because I have no clock up here. 10:34. Okay, great. Okay. I'm going to keep going with a couple more slides and wrap this up, and then we can open back up for Q&A. Is there a question? Okay. Yep, we've got a few more slides to get through, so let's move forward with that, and then we'll hold maybe some of the rest of the questions until later. Since you're talking about working, I wanted to bring up that one of the things that we're working on is a 6th quarter internship that is optional. So as I said earlier, that the summer quarter is a full-time study, and it is the first intensive quarter of your launch project, which means that you're also working with a team of students. So when we talked about the course schedule, even though on some days you might only have a particular class, you have often have to meet with your team outside of class to get your work done. And sometimes that could be an hour, sometimes that could be a 4-hour brainstorming or work session. So something to build into your schedule is building time to be here in the facility, meeting with your teams, and also potentially working in the Makerspace, working on fabrication and prototyping and those types of things, right? So often, in particular in the fall quarter, Nick, how many hours do you think students are spending when they have a deliverable? All of them, all of the hours. So, you know, that's a classic example of managing your time is you might have a grand idea or a sketch in your head of how to build a particular prototype, and you get maybe an hour or two into it and you realize what you thought was going to take you 4 hours is really going to take you 8 to 12 hours. It's a very common experience, especially in the first quarter. So don't forget to build that in. Like, this is an opportunity for you to have that time to explore and make mistakes and learn from them and build that into your tool set. So don't forget to allow that for yourself. Okay. So the 6th quarter optional internship, in part, this is in particular for international students and those that may be coming straight out of undergrad. We've seen that having some work experience or internship is often helpful in getting your first job out of the program. So we wanted to build this in as an opportunity for students to do an internship and use CPT instead of OPT. So we are working on making sure that that's set up, so just keep that in mind. And I do want to reiterate that although some students do choose to work part-time during the program, we highly discourage any kind of full-time work, and in particular for international students, we will not approve a full-time CPT application that coincides with a quarter of study. So during those 5 quarters, we would not approve any full-time internships, okay? So really quickly, just want to review the timeline. Things kick off in the fall with orientation. If you're a dual degree student, you would start in Beijing. If you're an MSTI student, you would, all of the students would do orientation here in Bellevue, but the group of dual degree students would start early with a week and a half orientation in Beijing. Matt will talk more about that this afternoon. Courses typically begin late September, sometimes as late as the first week of October. You would go through those 5 quarters. Late in, or actually in spring quarter, you're preparing for launch, and that the full pre-launch studio kicks off with summer quarter, which is typically in June. You would complete your launch projects by December, and then you have graduation. And so it happens really quickly. I think if you talk to any of our current students, you can ask them, when you start the program, it seems like it's a long time and you have the luxury of time, but the second you get into it, things move really quickly and they cannot believe how fast it happens. So.
I chose the dual degree program at GIX for multiple reasons. I really wanted to explore the opportunities that the University of Washington had to offer, especially in the technical fields like machine learning and the electrical engineering skills that we learn here at the program. I'm excited to study in China at Tsinghua University because it's going to be an entirely new experience for me. I really wanted to learn more about the influence that China will have in the coming years in technology development, and this dual degree program provides that sort of opportunity for me. The GIX program is providing me with a lot of marketable skills in machine learning, user experience, design, entrepreneurship, accounting and financing, IP law. You'll develop some really good friendships here in the program, including networking opportunities, but the friendships are real.
So that's Patrick. He's one of our dual degree students who's currently over in Beijing. So some of you may be looking at the dual degree. The dual degree is an additional component to the MSTI, and you would earn both the UW MSTI degree as well as the Tsinghua Master of Science in Engineering in Data Science and Information Technology. It's a bit of a mouthful, but a pretty powerful package. And so we just wanted to very quickly go over the timeline of that, and then again, Matt will talk about that more in depth later today. So I'm gonna just take this with me. So you can see the 5 quarters of the MSTI up here. One of the things to note about this program is that it's a simultaneous effort to be working on your master's research thesis. And so that's why we have that orientation up front in Beijing. You would be paired with advisors. You would start to do background research and select your topics. In the spring, you have a key milestone, which is your thesis proposal, which sort of outlines what you intend to do in your thesis. And again, that happens during spring quarter. So the dual degree students who are here now are working towards this milestone. You then complete your launch project, and then you have a break in December. And then starting early in winter, you transfer over to Tsinghua University in Beijing. And in addition to taking a few required courses and continuing your work in business, entrepreneurship, and design, you would be working closely with an advisor to complete your research thesis and present that and publish it, okay? So the dual degree program timeline is a little bit busier and a little bit longer. So again, you would start with that early orientation in Beijing, come and do our orientation. You get paired with advisors who can guide you in the early stages. Topic proposal, that can happen via Zoom, so you do not have to travel to Beijing. Is that correct for that? Then thesis draft for review. After you've completed your MSTI, you're in Beijing. The next milestone is thesis draft review, late May thesis defense, and then your graduation is early July. And one of the things that we've done in the framework of the UW program is that for the duration of your dual degree, you are enrolled as a full-time UW student and a full-time Tsinghua student. And the reason we do that is what allows you, if you choose, to come back to the US and be eligible to work in the US through OPT if you're an international student. So what we've done is we've built in some UW credits that allow you to stay enrolled as a full-time UW student, and then as soon as you're done at Tsinghua, you're eligible to come back here and apply to work. Okay. So that's a pretty deep dive of the program and the structure and the consortium and the launch. Now what I want to talk a little bit about is if you're going to join us in the fall, what can you be doing now? And in the meantime, this is a common question that we get. What can you be doing to make sure that you're prepared to come and hit the ground running and take advantage of the experience here? So one is, regardless of your backgrounds, brushing up on your computer science knowledge, in particular with Python. That's a language that is used quite a bit in courses and projects here. And we have some links here. We will give you this entire slide deck, and it has not only the details that you're seeing now, but there are also details in the notes section. So we'll make sure that you have that. Start to do some basic graphical interface programming with Python, playing with Android or iOS so that you can understand some of the basics of app development. And then also, we want to make sure that you're brushing up on all the topics that are relevant. So we'll provide additional readings for technology, business, and design topics. And we'll follow up with those either through email or online.
Financial aid, always also a hot topic. So for the scholarships that are provided by UW for the MSTI, the way that that works is those get applied automatically to your registration fees every quarter. So those should be automatically deducted, and then you'll have a balance that you'll need to pay for, right? And so those, it will be spread out across the entire 5 quarters evenly. So let's say, hypothetically, you got $10,000, then $2,000 every quarter would be deducted from your tuition. As I mentioned before, we do have limited part-time paid work opportunities for students. And those will typically be announced on a quarterly basis or when you would arrive in the fall. U.S. students can apply for federal financial aid through FAFSA, so hopefully you're already looking into that. Another source is UW Graduate Funding Information Service. And then also, if you are an international student, I would check with your own government because they often have specific scholarship opportunities to support you. There are a number of contests and activities that crop up once you're a student here that also have financial rewards for them, and we've had many students who've done that as well. Another big question that we always get, and I'm happy to report that we actually are finally in a place where we have some concrete information we can share with you and some examples. But what do we anticipate the career paths are? It's partly dependent on you and what you brought into the program, where you focused while you were here. We have students who are interested in going into engineering roles with armed with a broader perspective on design and business, and potentially leading engineering teams or being better equipped to direct engineering decisions based on that more broad view that they bring to the table. We have students who are very interested in project management or product management, and those tend to be roles where you are leading a team through the entire product development process and helping make decisions about the business, the design, and the technology aspects of that product. And this program really does a nice job of equipping students with that broad view. However, you want to think about the fact that a lot of companies hesitate to hire product managers or program managers right out of school. They really like to bring you into their business with some other type of functional role and move you in that direction. So that's something to think about if you're thinking about the evolution of your career. We have other students who get the bug in user research or user experience design and really choose to go into that role in the context of technology product development. So our vision for this program, we have this tagline of developing leaders in innovation, and our point of view is that based on the breadth and the exposure that you gain in this program, you really are positioned over the course of your career to have faster momentum and growth towards leadership positions because of the breadth that you've been exposed to here, because of your ability to work in interdisciplinary teams and manage those teams and move them forward, and your cross-cultural knowledge and experience as well. And so what we've seen and what we've heard from Microsoft and other industry partners who've informed the development of this program is that is an emerging need in their workforces, and they're looking for programs that are equipping students with that broader view and that more entrepreneurial view to their careers. So we really think that that's going to open up both
immediate and long-term interesting opportunities for you, potentially as leadership paths at existing companies or startups, CTO, CIO, CEO, right, for startup or emerging company or small organization. Perhaps you form ideas during your experience here at MSTI that turn into actual startups or products or get acquired. That's one path that we're looking we're looking forward to seeing from you all. And there's a new breed of company that's hiring a lot of students with this kind of footprint. They are technology strategy consulting firms. So these are sometimes traditional consulting firms like Anderson or McKinsey or IBM that are developing new teams to go out and help other companies figure out how to incorporate emerging technologies or digital strategies into their business. And this program is a perfect fit for being able to help work in those realms as well. Again, I introduced Alicia, but we're excited to have a dedicated career development specialist, and she's going to be working on all kinds of activities and opportunities. We typically hold a big career development event in the fall where we invite companies to come here and meet you. And some of them are actually interviewing for open roles. Some of them are doing mock interviews that allow you to practice. We have mentors who come and give workshops on networking, on building your resume and your cover letter. So a lot of activities to look forward to throughout the program to help you get ready for that career opportunity. I did not mention the mentor network, but I do want to mention that really quickly. Alicia will also be working with our mentors. So we have a whole number of mentors. These are people who are out in the world working in industry and relevant topics, product management, emerging technologies. One person who's particularly popular is working in conversational AI, which is a hot topic. And they sign up in a database and they put their profile in. You sign up in that database, you put your interests in, and then what we do is go through a matching process and make that introduction. And then you can take that as far as is helpful for you. You can meet once, just have a single session with that mentor. You can set up multiple meetings. They can mentor you throughout your entire time here, or you can move around and work with multiple mentors. But that is one key asset to this program. And many of our recently graduated students have said, man, I wish I had taken better advantage of that earlier. So I highly encourage you to be thinking about that and looking into that as early as fall.
Okay.
I first heard about GIX about 2 years ago. They mentioned that they wanted to get some mentors from the communities to come out and support some of their key programs, and I couldn't sign up any faster. I thought if it were 20 years back, I'd also like to kind of belong to that program. Earlier this year, I went on a tour of this facility, and I think if lots of organizations were to have a lab this good, they'd be producing a lot more innovative ideas and innovative products. The students here, from what I see, are amazing. I've mentored 2 students so far and done a workshop as well, and they're really fun to be around, and they learn really quickly. Training a lot of people in Fortune 500 companies, we see the experience that they're getting is up here compared to what's on the market right now. They have a tremendous amount of capabilities just by being here. Sign up as fast as you can, because if I were 20 years younger, I'd be signing up as well, trying to get in here. It just seems like the perfect match of everything.
So we have had some momentum of our recent graduates getting jobs. This is not a comprehensive list, but a good list of some examples. So you can see staff consultant for consulting, product manager for Alibaba, a blockchain startup, a few engineering roles, project management, product analyst. So just a one sampling of some of the jobs. And at this point, the recent grads are really getting a lot of momentum. Almost on a weekly basis, we hear about a new job opportunity that they've been offered. So stay tuned. We're going to continue to grow this list. This is Jay. He's one of our students who graduated and was offered a job by one of our consortium members, Bety. So he's working on a small research team there as a machine learning engineer. And you can take a look at the Bety launch project poster later when you have time.
The facilities here at GIX bring together technologies from CS and EE and hardware development, the type of things you might find in an architectural wood shop, equipment you might find over in mechanical engineering, PCB fabrication tools, computer-controlled embroideries, a variety of different mills, 3D printers, laser cutters. If there's a fabrication technology or a machine type that a student might be interested in, chances are we have it or we have a plan to get it. The fabrication resources we have here and that our students have access to are phenomenal. I've worked in a variety of academic and professional shops, and I have never been in a facility that has this quantity and this breadth of equipment and technology available for student use kind of at all times. And by bringing all of these tools into one space, it allows us to create new ideas and new objects and new ways of making things. We wanted to talk a little bit about what the Makerspace is. So it's at the center of the building and somewhat at the center of the program. Right? The Makerspace is meant to be a facility that is well equipped, it is safe, we've got instructional content that's being delivered, it's staffed up so that at any point during the program in whatever course that you're in, right, you can come into that space, have access to the technologies in order to kind of realize your ideas, but also the staff to help you on technologies that you maybe are unaware of or don't know how to use. But then there's also sort of a set of workshops happening in the background separate from your coursework so that you can build up the skills directly on these machines and fabrication technologies that may not be a part of the course curriculum directly, right? So if we go through these bullet points, right, in fall you're going to come in and the Makerspace is intimately tied with Tech and 511, the physical fabrication and prototyping course. So the Makerspace staff will be in that course. We will have workshops running in tandem with Brock Craft's curriculum so that we can get you all ready by the end of fall to know how to use all of our basic equipment, but also know how to access maybe our more advanced things so that you can kind of jump right into hardware software lab in the winter quarter and be able to produce kind of anything related to the technologies that we've got, right? And then we do continue workshop series throughout the year, right? So this quarter, we are the Makerspace is providing roughly 4 to 6 hours of programming per week of workshops and info sessions that students can come to. Those range from sort of just presentations about a technology, right? Sort of just an info session, to training and authorization sessions, short sessions where you're going to learn how to use something and then gain access to it. And then we also have multiple session workshops where you learn what I'm going to call a combinatory process, how to use one machine in combination with another, right? The idea that a 3D printer doesn't necessarily spit out the completed finished object, but how can these technologies work together so that you can get more advanced output? And then, right, and as we mentioned, we do have a staffed facility. When we go upstairs later this afternoon, you will also meet Paula and Justin, who are our part-time Makerspace staff that assist me. They're both coming from different technical backgrounds. One coming from more of a design and architecture and fabrication background, another a mechanical engineer. The Makerspace between the professional staff and the student staff, which I will hire several of you. And what we try to do is have a broad background so that no matter kind of what you're trying to do, there's someone on staff, be it a staff member or a student worker, that has experience in the technology you're trying to use, experience making the type of thing, or at least in the process or sort of design space and design thinking approach that is appropriate to the problem that you're pursuing. There's always these questions of what can we be doing from right now to the time that we arrive in order to get ourselves ready to participate at GIX and in the Makerspace. So there are no prerequisites for coming into the Makerspace. In fall, you will attend orientation sessions and safety trainings for everything that you will need in order to be successful in fabrication for Brock's class. And then, so you'll receive the orientation and all the things that you'll need for that course, and then begin to have access to the sessions that are about the more advanced technologies. But you do not need to know what you're doing before you arrive here. You're all coming from varied backgrounds, right? We're going to have students that arrive that have been hanging out in makerspaces, that have built things in the past, but knowing the academic backgrounds of many of you, maybe you've never made a physical thing with your hands. And we are prepared to work with all of you. It's a really fun place to sort of take people that are inexperienced and people that are experienced and have them go through the same processes together. So you kind of build that making culture as a learning community. And so we like to have everybody, come through that together. But if you do want to get ready and you've never done anything, I think the most critical thing that you could do is familiarize yourself with a 3D modeling environment. Here at GIX, we are somewhat platform agnostic. We use Rhino 3D or Rhinoceros 3D, Fusion 360, which is an Autodesk program. And we do have some students that use SolidWorks. So that is going to be available for you when you arrive here. Fusion 360 and Rhino are the two that are supported by sort of staff knowledge and coursework. So if you're going to pick one, you've not known any, I'd say Autodesk Fusion 360 is the one that you should kind of grab and start spending some time with. With your net IDs as students, the entire Autodesk suite is free. So all of that software is available to you to download and start learning right now. You can also work with a 2D program. So you can do two-dimensional graphics work. If you're going to pick one, I would say Adobe Illustrator is probably the one that's going to suit you the best, right? It's going to be applicable across multiple technologies, or something like Autodesk's just simple 2D AutoCAD or the 2D functions in Rhino. And then the last one, which is lynda.com, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with. It's an online learning platform that we provide memberships to that so that you can gain access to those online trainings. I don't know what the exact process is for that, but Anthony and I will work together to make sure that you all have access before you arrive. And that's a platform where you can learn these pieces of software. You can also learn lots of other softwares and kind of principles related to design and fabrication.
I would very, very pleased to introduce our student panel. So these are current students, and I'm going to start off with a couple of questions, an introduction of them, and then open it up for you all to ask questions. And I would encourage you to ask good questions. They are empowered to answer honestly and transparently, no matter what you ask. I would like to introduce Will Buchanan, Rituja, Jay, and Sichuan. And my first question for all of you is if you could start by just introducing yourself. What's your background? Why did you choose to come to GIX? And then I'll ask one more question and then open it up to the crowd.
Hi, I'm Will. I come from the world of mechanical engineering and product development. I've worked in large companies, small companies, consultancies, and roles like product developer, project manager, and manufacturing. So mostly I've been hardware. I built a lot of things. Recently, I've focused on computational, and I'm really enjoying the intersection of the two, which is why I'm here. I want to use hardware and software to have a meaningful contribution to the world, which is surprisingly hard to define. Mostly it's been focused in renewable energy, but recently I'm starting to shift towards healthcare and other areas. So.
Hi, I'm Rituja. I did my bachelor's in computer science and engineering, and I graduated last year. In course of my undergrad, I got opportunity to pursue research in deep learning and work with Cisco systems for my capstone. And with that sort of experience, I knew one thing, that I was not looking forward to dive in one technical topic to specialize in, and I was looking forward to get a diverse skill set and go back to school and strengthen myself with that sort of knowledge. So when I had US schools on my radar to apply for master's program, and when I happened to go through the UW course catalog and came across MSTI, and discovered that it has a joint partnership with Tsinghua, founding support from Microsoft, and it was what exactly the nature of the program I was looking out for. I went ahead and made an application. And when I was here for the GIX Visit Day last year, this place really just energized me. I like the energy and vibe the place has every day, which motivates me to bring the best of me, and hence I'm here.
So hi everyone, I'm Jay. I'm a UX designer, graduate in 2017 from University of Washington Human-Centered Design. So after my graduation, I worked 1 year as a contract designer in the industry. During that 1 year, I really realized what I lack as a designer. So that's why I decided to come back to school in GIX to gain like more of an interdisciplinary understanding of how to do design, which is something I didn't learn in HCD.
Hi everyone, I'm Sixuan. I graduated from Zhejiang University last year, and my background is industrial design. I believe that technology empowers designer and broaden our imagination. I realized my interest fields is IoT devices and healthcare systems, and since GIX focuses on that specific field, I choose GIX. Another reason is that I don't want to be an ordinary UX designer because I want to do more physical thing. So so I choose GIX.
Thank you. So quickly, Will and Rituja are dual degree, and then Jay and Sixuan are MSTI only as well, just for your context. Okay, so what I would love to do is have each of you just talk really briefly and give me an example of either the biggest surprise that you've had at GIX and or a project highlight, a project experience or team experience that's been a highlight for you. And then I'm gonna hand off to open up for audience questions.
When I in GIX, I take all these facilities for granted, but when I talk with students from other program, I realize they don't have that much resources as we have. Also, in GIX, everyone's from different background and have different academic goal and career goal. So it's really interesting to talk with the students here, to talk with my classmates, and I learn a lot from them.
Okay. So for me, I think my biggest surprise here at GIX is I think people ask a lot of questions. Because when I was undergrad in HCDE, we do design, we do research. Nobody asks questions. We think that's what our instructors taught us, and we just do it. But here, we also have UX design classes. When we do it, I see my teammates ask a lot of questions. Why are we doing this? What's the point of doing this? How would this contribute to us actually building like a functional product? So for me as a designer, while I'm answering those questions, I can feel my own growth. So yeah.
I'd say the surprising factor which I find here is the access to opportunity and the welcoming community. Like even if the smallest of ideas what you have as student to pursue a project or to start an initiative, people are here to support you and to bring in contacts and push you forward to pursue it in the way that you can.
So I like to think that I wasn't surprised because I carried no expectations coming in, but that is not true. For me, the biggest shock was I came from industry and I hadn't been in school for many years, and there are quarters here, and that's really fast. 10 weeks blows through, and especially if you're working on a project, you'll spend 2 or 3 weeks scoping your project, and that I can't emphasize that enough. It's like manage the scope of your own work. So an example is we built an energy monitoring system on top of some open source hardware, and it uses machine learning to classify the appliances that are being used and provide feedback to the user. But it took 4 weeks to find the hardware that was suitable for the application because monitoring power is challenging. So by week 4, we got it. It took another week to get there. So 5 weeks into the 10-week quarter, we actually started building. And that was a nice constraint, and we learned a ton. But I think just going into the projects, having thought about it more thoroughly and really managed the scope would have made it a lot better. But the product is really cool as is, so I'm happy with it.
Great. So questions from our prospective students?
My question is for you, Jay. So what do you think you learned more here that you did not get to learn in HCDE at UW?
I would say it's not like more and less. It's like a completely different set of experience, because I think in GIX, we're really like a graduate experience where all the students, they have more or less of a professional experience. So when you work with them, I think the setting will be more realistic, more like when you're working in real world. let's say when you're in a